Do you want to see my long walk to that 7-Eleven up ahead? Let's go! All right, there it is up ahead. See? What? Did you think I just sped up this footage to make it look like a long walk or something? Psh, all of you are silly. What is up, everybody? Random Random Man here, bringing you my review for The Long Walk in one take. Now, the plot of this dystopian survival thriller follows a group of teenage boys who compete in the annual titular long walk, where they must walk for hundreds of miles and maintain a certain speed, or they get shot. So going into this movie, I had some interest in seeing it because it's a concept that is different from what I've seen in other dystopian thrillers as of late, and probably in general too. This is based on the Stephen King book of the same name, and of course he's a legendary writer. Countless numbers of his works have been adapted for the stage, screen, whatever medium. I mean, there's so much that have been done with his works over the past few decades, and now this is the latest of his books to be adapted into a movie. And some of the cast that I recognized also got me on board to see it, which, starting out with the cast and their performances, we have Cooper Hoffman as the main character. We get the most backstory with him, and he is from the same state where this long walk takes place across. Now, of course, knowing him, his famous dad, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman, and his film debut was 2021's Licorice Pizza, which I loved, and he was also very good in last year's Saturday Night. Here, he proves why, jumping off of Licorice Pizza up until now, that he is a charismatic actor, has a lot of the sensibilities like his dad, but he has a lot of softness and just a lot of a strong nature of him too. I mean, he's very much a relatable character doing this because of the circumstances that the world this film creates has put these boys into. The next notable lead here is David Johnson, who, oh my god, I mean, he stunned me last year in Alien Romulus, playing that android there, and here he proves why he is a rising star. Earlier this year, he won the BAFTA Rising Star Award, and I think he was the MVP in Alien Romulus, He was the MVP in that movie, and he's the MVP in this film too, along with Hoffman. Both of them create for one of the best on-screen film duos that I've seen in a while. I mean, yesterday I saw and reviewed Toy Story for its 30th anniversary, and Woody and Buzz, they're an iconic duo, but I think that Hoffman and Johnson here really do work well off of one another because we get to follow them the most, and we get to see how they are across this seemingly endless walk here. And they're trying to survive, of course, and they're not trying to hurt each other or trying to put one behind the other. They're also trying to help others too while bringing each other up, all of that. I think that is a dynamic that really had me riveted while watching this movie, on top of both of their performances here. And there's quite a few other notable names here that I recognized that are present in this film. Ben Wong, or Ben Wang, I apologize since I misremembered how to pronounce his last name. He was from Karate Kid Legends earlier this year as the lead of that film. He plays another one of the boys walking. There's also Charlie Plummer, who I recognize. Roman Griffin Davis, who looks all grown up after seeing him first in Jojo Rabbit. And then the other big lead to mention here, or at least the big lead villain in a notable supporting turn here, is Mark Hamill as the Major, the guy who's watching over all this and, trying to rile everybody up and also bring them down in some senses too with this long walk that they're all going on. And this leads me into the writing of this film. With how superb the performances are, it is brought out by how this world, even with it seemingly being simple, is really fleshed out in what we get to see across these young boys just walking across the huge tracts of land that they have to get across. This world has been in a result of a state of where the country has been at war and everyone is in financial distress, and every year 50 boys, so I assume one boy from every state, one boy from every state is chosen to participate in this long walk where they get to win a sum of money, a huge sum of money at the end of it if they're the last one standing, and they get to have one wish granted. There are a few rules, of course, though. I mean, they have to maintain a certain speed. They can't go under 3 miles per hour, and they get verbal warnings because of it. And then, after enough warnings, or if they just stop altogether or even try to flee and get off the pavement, they get shot. And, the movie becomes increasingly intense because of it. And the first death that we see, the first on-screen murder of one of these boys, is quite graphic and sets the stage and tone for what is to come. And then that is also when the title card of the movie shows up. So I'm like, oh, it's one of these kind of movies where it waits a bit after we get introduced to these characters here. Like I said, Cooper Hoffman, his character gets the most development here. We also get to see his mother, played by Judy Greer, in a really heartbreaking, aching performance here. Of course, she doesn't want to see his son go through all this and just do whatever. And then there's a lot of backstory that we get a little later on, way later on actually, with Cooper Hoffman's character and what he is doing and his main motivation to do all this aside from the money and such. So there's all that. And then the movie could seem in concept repetitive to where we're watching all these characters, all these boys just walk across land, eventually some of them getting shot and killed and just going through all these motions and trying to stay alive amidst all the pain and the terrain and all the weather that's upon them. The movie does keep itself interesting, though, with a bunch of light humor. It's light and also dark at the same time because, of course, they're trying to make conversation and they're trying to just keep going with whatever is going to happen with them, and also trying to keep each other up. Certain ones are trying to have it out for each other, and other ones are just not strong enough to keep going. And every time someone dies, every time we see someone die on screen, or we hear a gunshot in the background implying that they have been killed, it gets you. It rings real true in your head, and that's the focus that this film really has in going through all of it. The director here is Francis Lawrence, who is no stranger to dystopian films. Prior to this, he directed 3 of the 4 main Hunger Games movies, Catching Fire, both Mockingjay films, and then also the prequel that most recently came out a couple years ago, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Before all this, he also directed I Am Legend, starring Will Smith. So he knows a thing or two with these kinds of worlds, and he is perfect to what he is bringing to the table here, in how we get to focus on how the world building on top of the writing here is showing what state these characters are in to want to go ahead and go through with this, despite the risk of themselves being killed if they're not the last person standing or walking or whatever. And then also just what we see of this film minimally. It's well shot, it's very dreary looking, very bleak, fitting with the tone here. I believe the movie was shot in sequence as well too, meaning that it was shot in order. So progressively we get to see how tired, how messed up, how they look in their appearances as the days go on with this long walk. I mean, with Hoffman's character in particular, you get to see that stubble is becoming more apparent on his face for not having shaved in so long and all that. And, that's not very common for movies to do in shooting themselves in order because, certain scenes have to be shot first versus others and almost any other movie, especially with a lot of action. But with this, it makes sense because you're having to go in order or really, maintain the continuity of how these boys are holding up or not holding up with this titular long walk. And other technical merits I have to mention here too. I mean, like I said, the movie's well shot with its cinematography, a lot of wide open planes here, the way it is cut, the pacing altogether. The movie runs at about an hour and 45 minutes, and it really hardly ever skips a beat. Only at times that I feel, going through the motions, especially when we were getting towards the end of the film. We're getting down to the wire. We're getting down to the last few boys that are standing and walking here. Yeah, you could say, okay, the movie is, doing its thing. We get a bunch of emotional send-offs for a lot of them, especially for some of them that we get to know, because we know not every single one of these characters is going to, that is going to end up making it out of here. But I think that adds on to just how engaging the movie is altogether, and just being something that, it's hard to look away from. It's not an easy movie to watch. Again, the first death that we see, really sets the stage for what is to come here. And then as it goes in all together, by the time it gets to the end, oh my God, the ending really makes it something, because without giving anything away, oh wow, like I think it was super satisfying in a way. My audience cheered and whooped at one point also earlier in the film too, because even the villain's involved, but by the end it's like, oh my God. It also rings like, with the message, it rings true with the message and like how this movie is going through with it. It has heart amidst the dystopian deaths here, and I think that is a big thing that the movie, despite its subject matter, is backing up and coming across, to where we're seeing hope in some senses, but even with the hopelessness that is put in here altogether, I mean, it is well balanced. I think that it makes for something that is really enjoyable all around. This has been touted as one of the best Stephen King adaptations ever, and I think as of now, if I'm remembering correctly, it's the highest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's like one of the higher rated ones out there. Of course, stuff like the original Carrie from the 1970s, directed by Brian De Palma, really enjoyed that one. Shawshank Redemption, of course, that is a classic of cinema altogether too, beyond Stephen King's original work. For me, I mean, The Shining, even though Stephen King didn't like how that one turned out, and it definitely strayed away from its source material, I mean, that is a horror classic as well too. Of course, Stanley Kubrick, he is who I consider to be the greatest American filmmaker ever. But yeah, like with what is done here in adapting Stephen King's work, I think what has been done has made for a more than solid effort here. And I think anyone watching this will, really get something out of it, feeling intense. I mean, I was like almost holding my breath by the end of this film. And I wonder how it holds up compared to the source material. Right after I got out of this movie, I posted a story on Instagram prior to going in to see it, and my friend responded saying he thought this was an excellent adaptation of the book, despite the slight change at the end. So John, if you're seeing this, if you haven't responded to me already, what was the slight change? Let me know. But in any sense, I really enjoyed The Long Walk. I think this is one of the more standout films that I have seen lately, and doing what it needs to do, or what it does really well, and just using its concept and having it really get a lot of the visceral reactions out of myself and the audience. Every time someone got shot and killed, it was like, ugh, and all that, even though some of us saw the inevitable happening. But in any sense, I think this is a film that I definitely recommend seeing. And, if anything, it really is a showcase for these young actors and how a lot of them are rising stars, especially Cooper and Johnson. Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson, I should say, excuse me. Yeah, all of them here, and how it all goes together with it being rounded out by something that I think, if you're looking for thrills, this is going to deliver them. And there's not much more than I can say than that as to this film being something that is really worthwhile effort. It is worth watching. So with all of that being said, my final verdict for The Long Walk is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of The Long Walk. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.